Motor riding. Back in 2001, Honda came out with the CBR F4i, which strikes a balance between sports riding, comfort, and practicality. Back in the days before the 600cc class evolved into a razor's edge, bred to set only the fastest lap time around a track, a time existed when street comfort took a front seat to all-out sports riding. Did Honda unwittingly build the greatest 600cc motorcycle of all time? Let's find out. Up front, the dual headlights do a decent job of lighting the road, but with the high beam having its own housing, leaving the lighting lopsided, I've more than on one occasion been approached about having a headlight out. The front suspension is handled by traditional front forks with compression and dampening adjustment, which are more than adequate for spirited street riding, and only really feel soft when doing hard braking. My main recommendation for the front forks is to change the fork oil if it's been a while. The rear suspension is also adjustable and provides a stiff enough spring for plenty of feedback while riding aggressively, but soft enough so that you don't have your teeth knocked out on bumpy roads. Braking is handled by two 296mm rotors with 4-piston Nissan calipers and linked together by an aftermarket steel-braided brake line, which replaced the old rubber hoses. With a bike of this age, getting rid of the rubber hoses is a good idea. The steel braided lines give much better feel and feedback. Now from 2001 to 2003, the F4i had a split seat instead of a banana seat on the later models. The split is widely regarded to look more sporty, but at the cost of some comfort. The profile of the F4i still looks aggressive when standing alone, but only really shows its more rounded styling age when sitting next to newer sport bikes. The tail section of this F4i has been cleaned up with a fender eliminator and an LED taillight, replacing the old incandescent bulbs. The dash features a digital speedometer matched with an analog tach, and while riding looking down at a glance, you can see your speed and RPMs very easily. You've also got a handy digital clock which stays on even if the key is off. Also a fuel reserve indicator that comes on once you get to about a gallon left in your 4.8 gallon gas tank. In my experience, once the bars come on, you'll have 30 to 40 miles to reach a gas station, and typically I see around 42 miles per gallon while riding both city and the twisties. If you're purely riding highway, I've gotten as high as 220 miles on a single tank, but in most situations, you'll be looking to fill up after around 120 to 150 miles. The colorful blinker, high beam, and neutral lights all sit at the top of the dash, making it easier to pick up out of your peripheral vision. My only real gripe is that the clutch cable is threaded over the tripometer, making it impossible to see without bending the cable back. The mirrors work as well as can be expected for the size, and you might have to dip an elbow to see directly behind you, but overall they're fine. The handlebars are placed above the triple tree clamp, making the riding position more upright than most street bikes. The F4i was designed without a steering dampener in mind, so a beefed up headstock and other parts of the frame combined together to help the 435 wet weight of the CBR change direction quickly without sacrificing too much stability. With a seat height of 31.7 inches, the rider triangle from the bars to the seat to the pegs make for a very natural seating position that provides long ride comfort with the advantage of leaning over the tank for a more sporty tucked position. Of course, the soul of the F4i is the motor. A 599cc inline 4-cylinder fuel-injected motor makes around 96 horsepower with 47 foot-pounds of torque. With a red line that's just over 14,000 RPM, the meat of the power begins to pick up around the 6,000 RPM mark, and rolling all the way through the rev range feels really linear and smooth. And jumping on a more modern sport bike won't feel too much different or more powerful. The bike is perfectly comfortable to putt around town at 5,000 and below, but once you get on the boil around 8,000 RPM, the bike will come alive howling till you feel the power roll off around 13,000. Full throttle in first gear is enough to send the front wheel off the ground, while quickly blipping into second gear will keep the front light and skipping over the pavement as power is put down. With a top speed of 155 miles per hour and a 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds and a quarter mile of 10.6, the F4i is more than potent enough to stay matched with most modern bikes while canyon carving. Matched to my rev-happy motor is a Yoshimura TRS tri-oval slip-on exhaust with the silencer left inside. The silencer keeps the bike closer to stock sound levels while eliminating about 10 pounds of weight. Also, carbon fiber just looks cool. So what's it like to ride? Here's a snippet. As with any bike of this age, there are a few components that need to be addressed. The cam chain tensioner is notorious on these bikes for making a buzzing beehive sound at certain RPMs. This can be fixed by replacing the CCT with a manual version, but is not exactly the easiest repair to do considering most of the components are obscured by the frame, but not impossible. And the part costs, if you go with the manual version, about $50. Next, I would recommend replacing the rubber hoses with steel braided brake lines. It's easy to do, give you better feel, better feedback, and with a bike of this age, it's something that needs to be done. Overall, with proper care, the generally bulletproof F4i will see well over 100,000 miles without issue. So who is this bike for? Well, people who want to put down a lot of miles, but also want an ergonomic, sporty package. The F4i is capable of being your everyday commute bike, as well as being your canyon carver on the weekends. If you start doing track days, the bike is still plenty capable, but you'll start dragging foot pegs and exhaust as you become a more advanced rider. The final question that I know somebody is gonna ask is this a good beginner's bike? In a sense, it's a great beginner's bike. Good ergos, linear power, reliable, but I would not recommend it as someone's first motorcycle. This bike is definitely more forgiving than some of its racier counterparts, but in the hands of someone without experience, the F4i can get you into a lot of trouble quickly. At the end of the day, the F4i might fly under the radar of sport bikes worthy of the masses' attention, but to a keen eye and honed skills, this motorcycle is a weapon, a tool, a commuter, and a way of getting you out exploring into the world. Ride safe, everyone.